Hey guys, happy Tuesday. This is day 10. Yes, day 10 of Unfogged 31 Days of God Lenses. The title of this word is Closed Doors but Open Blessings. Closed doors but open blessings. This word actually comes from a real life experience that the Lord brought back to my remembrance from maybe 2014 or 15. I was living in Clearwater, Florida at this time. Um, and most of you know that I'm from Miami, Florida, but I did move to Clearwater, Florida when I turned 18 and graduated high school. So Clearwater, Florida is about 4 hours away from Miami, Florida. It's a part of the Tampa Bay area. So I'm sitting in the nail shop today, and the Lord just brought this back to my remembrance. And I know it's going to help someone listen spiritually. Um, Listen with your spiritual ears, okay? Because this is going to bless someone. And then I'm going to give you guys the two verses that the Lord has given me for the past couple of days, which I feel like these two verses go perfectly with this word. And I'm going to be pulling from my CSB version Bible. But today, as I was in the nail shop and I'm just, kind of zoning out, your mind is in different places. And the Lord brought back to me years ago, like I said, this was 2000, I want to say this was maybe 2015. I don't know how old I was, but back then I remember, of course, I was a little heathen. So I was lukewarm. I wasn't, of course, didn't have a ministry, wasn't walking in my purpose or calling. I was just doing life, and being a lukewarm person. But I always did acknowledge God. I feel like I've always acknowledged him. I just wasn't fully walking the way he wanted me to. So either way, when we're lukewarm, he vomits us up. So I was a part of that vomit. Okay. So that's neither here or there. But I was getting ready to travel back home to Miami. This was a Friday, and I was getting ready to go back home for the weekend. And I don't think I was going home to do anything fun. I feel like there was an important reason why I needed to go back home. But around this time, I wasn't doing really great financially. I had a good job and so forth, but I just wasn't doing great financially. A lot was going on. Um, I was in college at this time. So at this point in time, I was actually paying out of pocket for schooling. I was going for my bachelor's degree at Walden University. I had ran out of financial aid, so I was literally paying out of pocket. And if you know, you know. Walden University is a private university, so it's expensive. And I just had just a lot of financial things going on, guys. But for whatever reason, and I cannot remember, I needed to go back home. And I remember having all of these thoughts going through my head. Like I knew I was going to make the trip because I had to, and I was going to make it work with whatever I had. But I remember saying maybe a silent prayer in my heart. And I won't even call it a prayer, but I was pondering everything that I was feeling and thinking in my heart. And of course, God knows what we're thinking. He knows what we're thinking before we think it. And I was just kind of worried about the money. Like, okay, I'm going to go down here, but I still have to pay my car note. My car note back then was like $350. Whew, how I wish that was how things were today. But my car note back then was like $350. I had insurance due, I had to pay bills. And of course, this trip wouldn't be cheap. Even though it was me driving 4 hours away, I still had to pay for gas. And I just had all of these thoughts going through my mind. And I get off work and I get home, and for some reason, I'm locked out of the house, right? I was living in a townhouse at this time and I got locked out of the house. I don't know if my god sister had the key and I was locked out, but at this point, I'm frustrated, right? I was really frustrated because I needed to get in the house, I needed to pack, I needed to leave, and I can't even get in the house. So I had a friend that lived in the apartment complex behind me, and I was going to go to her house so that I can wait for whoever to bring me a key. I really don't remember how I was locked out, but I knew I did not have my key and someone else had it. So I went to my friend's apartment that lived behind the townhomes, and she had to go to the grocery store. and she had to bring her little son, right? I'm already aggravated. So, of course, I don't want to go to the grocery store, but I'm like, let me just ride with her, take my mind off of it. Let me just calm down and go with her because I don't have a choice anyway. I can't get in the house. So, I went with her to the store, guys. She needed to pick up some food, some items, and I went to go get a scratch off ticket. I was just like, let me just go get a scratch off. I had some cash on me. I think I probably spent $10 on a scratch off ticket. So I'm walking to the car with my friend and her son, and I'm just scratching it off with my little coin, not thinking anything of it, guys. And as I sit in the car, I realized that at this point in the scratch off, I had won $500 on a $5 to $10 scratch off. And I'm like, wait, don't move the car. And she's like, what? What did you win? And I'm scratching, and like every number was a winner. And we were just adding it up. It was like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And we're counting like the whole ticket was actually a winner. So I actually won every single number on the ticket. And I'm like, I won $500. She's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, yes. And in that moment, I knew that that could have only been God. Now, if you're listening and you're judgmental, you're going to be like, that wasn't God, that was gambling. Call it what you want. God works through whatever ways he wants to work through. And I got out of the car and I remember in that moment, like I remember saying, thank you, God, or like praising God in that moment because I needed everything that I had just won on that scratch off. That scratch off was going to pay my car note and pay my insurance and give me the flexibility to go back home to do whatever I needed to do. But I had to be locked out in order to be blessed. I had to be locked out in order for a prayer to be answered. Many of you, and I'm feeling chills all over my body, I'm getting super hot, but many of you have been locked out of something, locked out of your marriage, locked out of an ordained relationship, and it could have been a friendship, locked out of the family, locked out of position that you know that God told you to apply to, and you were locked out of it for some reason, denied for this position. God sends divine help. You were locked out for whatever reason. Many of you guys have had the doors closed and locked on you. But what you don't realize is that you've been locked out in order to be blessed. God is answering your prayer due to this door being closed, through this closed door. I didn't know that by me being locked out of my house, that I was going to go to my friend's house, go to the store and win this money that I actually needed to take this trip. And when I tell you so much peace and calm came over me, so much peace and calm. And of course, like I said, I wasn't walking wholeheartedly with God. I was very much so lukewarm, but God takes care of us even when we don't acknowledge him. He still takes care of us. He is still so kind and so loving and so giving. And I don't know what that white thing was. It just floated by the screen, guys. I don't even know if y'all gonna see that, but I don't know. But many of you, God just wants you to know that you were locked out in order to be blessed. You were locked out in order to be blessed. Some of you haven't even said what you're feeling. It's just things that you've pondered in your mind, that you've pondered in your heart. But God knows our secret thoughts. He knows our intimate thoughts that we don't even talk to friends or family about. He knows the frustrations that we don't even show because we've been taught to be strong and to not look like what we're going through. But God still, he sees what you've been through. So there's a reason why he brought this back to my remembrance. And again, this was years ago. This was years ago, guys. And this was not on my mind at all. But nothing is coincidence when God chooses to drop something in your spirit and bring it back to your remembrance and to show you that even when I wasn't thinking about God, even when he wasn't on the forefront of my heart, I was always on the forefront of his. You're always on the forefront of his. And I hope I don't start crying because I feel it. So I'm going to start talking a little bit faster. But even when we don't acknowledge God, he acknowledges us. Even when we don't deserve to be blessed, he still blesses us. And he does it through unusual things. Of course, no, God didn't tell me to get a scratch off. I felt led to get one. It was just something I needed to do to get my mind off of it. And I'm thinking, okay, let me just buy a scratch off because I'm here and I'm not here to grocery shop. It's just something to do. I'm stressed out. And even through that, God blessed me. And you know why? Because all things work for the good of those that love the Lord and are called to purpose. No, I wasn't walking in purpose, but God always knew that I'd be right here on this very day. My story was already written. I'm called and chosen. Many of you are called and chosen. That means you don't have a choice to walk away unless you want to be caught in a big fish, Jonah. I don't. I can't even swim. Okay. So that is not my portion. But when you're called and chosen, you don't have a choice to just walk away. Your free will does not override anything. So God knew that I'd be here at this very moment. So even when I was out in the world doing the most, he still had a hedge of protection over me, which is why I'm still here today, because I can think of times where I should have been dead. I can think of times when I was driving home drunk on a highway. And if you've ever lived in Clearwater, Florida, and you've crossed the Causeway Bridge, it is a very long bridge. I want to say the bridge is like 7 miles, I think. I literally drove that bridge drunk. And I'm going to tell you this every time, and I wasn't drunk a lot. Like I was never a big drinker, but I remember this specific night and other nights that I drove home drunk. And you see a lot of people that have driven home drunk and they never made it home, or people that they drove home drunk and someone else lost their life. For this could have only been God, because every time I was drunk, I was very alert. I knew that I was drunk and I would be talking to myself in my head. Like, this is not the life God has for you. Why are you doing this? Like, this is not even who you are. Da-da-da. Those are the conversations that I would be having with myself when I was drunk. Many of you have had the same things happen. When you are called and chosen, God speaks to you even when you're in the middle of a club. You can be crazy drunk and God will still speak to you. So, not even to get off topic, but let me just give you guys the way I can't even get my words out. Closed doors, open blessings. Closed doors, open blessings. Many doors have been closed to whoever this word is for, but they've been closed so that blessings can open up. And it may seem like an inconvenience, just like me being locked out of my own house. Make that make sense. It was a huge inconvenience to me. But in that inconvenience and in that locked door, not just closed, it was closed and locked. But it was only closed and locked for a moment because God needed to redirect me to get this blessing. And then he was going to send me back home to an open door. Y'all better catch that with your spiritual ears. Closed doors, open blessings. That's for somebody. I've never thought on this any other time. And it's been years, guys. If this was 2015, we're in 2020. That's 9 years ago. Somebody needed to hear this tonight. Closed doors, but open blessings. Your story is already written. God knew you would be exactly where you are at this very moment, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I don't know what doors were closed for you guys. If it's a relationship, if it's family, if maybe your mother, your father closed you out, maybe your entire family closed you out. They closed the door and locked it. A position, whatever. Maybe you've been denied for a loan that God told you to apply for, and that door was closed and locked. But it was closed so that blessings could be open. So let me give you guys these two verses. I'm going to read from Psalm 16, the CSB version Bible, and I'm reading from verse 5 and 6. It says, Lord, you are my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I'm going to read this one more time. Lord, you are my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future. The boundary lines have fallen for me. The boundary lines have fallen for you. And I need you to really catch that, whoever this is for. In pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. Some of you guys, boundaries have been set by other people for you, and you can't cross them, but they're falling just for you in pleasant places. Trust God with whatever you've been praying for, whatever you've been pondering in your heart that you haven't said out loud, whatever it is, just know that God has you in the palm of his hands. And he will make those boundary lines fall just for you. And when he causes them to fall, they fall in pleasant places. So that's the word for tonight, guys. Is there anything else I was supposed to say on this word? Um, I don't think so. Give me a second, guys. No, I don't think so. But that's it, guys. I love you. I hope you have a blessed Tuesday. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.